What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and you can have me, possibly, at your next event. Entertaining you, entertaining the people. The people need to be entertained. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Let's learn some stuff right here on the What Makes You Smarter program.
Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, May 8th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, DOJ drops its case against Michael Flynn. The Justice Department on Thursday moved to drop its criminal case against President Trump's former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contact with Russia's ambassador before Trump's inauguration. Flynn later tried to withdraw the plea, saying he was pressured into giving it. The DOJ investigated and concluded the FBI's interview of Flynn was, quote, unjustified, end quote. So his statements weren't, quote, material even if untrue, end quote. Federal Judge Emmett Sullivan now must decide whether to dismiss the case. Trump said the reversal showed Flynn was an, quote, innocent man, end quote. Critics said the move was the latest in a series of efforts by Attorney General William Barr to chip away at the results of former special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 2, Trump's personal valet tests positive for coronavirus. One of President Trump's personal valets has tested positive for coronavirus. The valet, who was not identified publicly, is a member of the Navy and part of an elite military unit that works closely with the president and his family. So the test result raised concerns that Trump could have been exposed to the virus. Trump was very upset when he learned of the valet's test result and was subsequently retested by the White House physician, CNN reported. Quote, the president and the vice president have since tested negative for the virus and they remain in great health, end quote. Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley said in a statement, Trump will now be tested daily for COVID-19, he said. This is according to CNN. Number 3, father and son charged with murder in Ahmaud Arbery shooting. Gregory McMichael, 64, and his son, Travis McMichael, 34, have been arrested for the fatal February shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. The Georgia Bureau of Investigations announced Thursday. Both were charged with murder and aggravated assault. Arbery, who was black, was jogging through a Glynn County neighborhood on February 23rd when the McMichaels, who are white, began chasing him in a pickup truck. They told police they thought he was responsible for recent burglaries in the neighborhood, although no such crimes were reported in the weeks before the shooting. The arrest came 2 days after a video emerged showing Travis McMichael holding a shotgun as he confronted the unarmed Arbery in the street. There is a scuffle, 3 shots are fired, and Arbery stumbles and falls to the ground. This is according to CNN and WJCL. Number 4, Supreme Court throws out convictions in Bridgegate scandal. The Supreme Court unanimously threw out the convictions of 2 former New Jersey officials involved in the state's, quote, Bridgegate, end quote, scandal on Thursday. Justice Elena Kagan wrote that the aides, Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni, allies of former Governor Chris Christie, Republican, quote, used deception, end quote, to cut access lanes from Fort Lee, New Jersey to the bridge, quote, for no reason, end quote, other than, quote, political payback, end quote, against Fort Lee's mayor, who had refused to endorse Christie's reelection. Evidence clearly shows corruption and power abuse, but Kelly and Baroni, quote, could not have violated the federal program fraud or wire fraud laws, end quote, because they didn't, quote, aim to obtain money or property, end quote, Kagan wrote. Baroni began his 18-month prison sentence last year. Kelly was scheduled to begin her 13-month sentence 2 weeks before the Supreme Court agreed to hear her case. This is according to CNN. Number 5, report. Trump administration shelved CDC guidelines for reopening economy. The Trump administration sent back the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's proposed guidance for restarting businesses, houses of worship, schools, and local government offices during the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, requesting revisions, the Associated Press reported Thursday. The 17-page report, titled, quote, Guidance for Implementing the Opening Up of America Again Framework, end quote, was intended for release last Friday, but an anonymous CDC official said agency scientists were told it, quote, would never see the light of day, end quote. Normally, the CDC provides regular guidance and science-based updates on public health crises, but the White House has handled regular briefings during the coronavirus pandemic. The White House's broad guidelines on reopening leave most decisions to governors. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 6, report. Burr's brother-in-law sold stocks on same day he did. Senator Richard Burr's brother-in-law, Gerald Fauth, sold off significant stock holdings on the same day Burr did in February, just before fears of economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic triggered a market crash, ProPublica reported Thursday. Fauth, who was appointed by President Trump to the National Mediation Board in 2017, reportedly sold between $97,000 and $280,000 worth of shares in 6 companies, some of which dropped more sharply than the broader market in the panicked selling, which dragged down the main U.S. indexes by more than 30% in the month that followed. Burr had received intelligence briefings about the potential fallout from the pandemic, but he said he based his investment decisions on publicly available news. This is according to ProPublica and Fox News. Number 7, Tara Reade says she wishes Biden would drop out. Tara Reade, who has accused former Vice President Joe Biden of sexually assaulting her in 1993, told Megyn Kelly in a piece of an interview aired Thursday that she thought Biden should withdraw from the 2020 presidential race. Reade says Biden sexually assaulted her in the Capitol building when she worked for him in the Senate. Quote, you and I were there, Joe Biden, end quote, she said. Quote, you should not be running on character for the president of the United States, end quote. Reade, whose lawyers include a Trump donor and a former editor of the Russia-linked Sputnik news agency, said she wished Biden would drop out of the presidential race. Quote, but he won't, end quote. Biden has denied Reade's allegation, quote, unequivocally, end quote, saying, quote, it never happened, end quote. This is according to Megyn Kelly. Number 8, small business disaster loan limit slashed. The Small Business Administration has slashed its limit on loans under an emergency disaster lending program from $2 million to $150,000 due to overwhelming demand. The agency also is blocking all new applications from small businesses under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. The longstanding program is separate from the Paycheck Protection Program created in response to the coronavirus pandemic, aiming to help small businesses continue paying employees through the crisis. The Disaster Loan Program did get more than $50 billion in new funding under coronavirus relief bills Congress has passed since the outbreak began. The SBA now has a backlog of applications. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 9, jobs report expected to show 21.5 million jobs lost in April. Economists expect the Labor Department's April employment report to show the U.S. economy lost a record 21.5 million jobs last month as the coronavirus shut down businesses across the country. The losses likely pushed up the unemployment rate from 4.4% to 16%, although it could fall anywhere between 11% and 20%, according to Dow Jones. 16% unemployment would be the highest rate since 1939, late in the Great Depression. Quote, this is the biggest and most acute shock that we've seen in post-war history, end quote, said Michelle Meyer, head of U.S. economics at Bank of America. The government reported Thursday that 3.2 million people filed new claims for unemployment benefits last week, bringing the total to 33.5 million in the last 7 weeks. This is according to CNBC. Number 10. India expands evacuations after deadly gas leak at a chemical factory. Indian authorities on Friday widened evacuations near a South Korean-owned chemical factory where a gas leak has killed at least 12 people. Another 1,000 people reportedly were left struggling to breathe after the leak. Authorities tried to ease a panic caused by the evacuations, assuring the public that there hadn't been a new leak, but the factory's owner, LG Chem, said it had requested the new evacuations due to concerns that rising temperatures at the plant's gas tank could result in further leaks. Authorities said they were flying in chemicals to neutralize the gas before letting evacuees return to their home. The first evacuations on Thursday affected about 3,000 people. This is according to the Associated Press. That's 10 things you need to know today for Friday, May 8th, 2020. Thank you for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. Peace. I'm out of here.
If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube, username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.